Clark. I'm chair of DC for Democracy, and I'll be moderating tonight's event. In general, all you need to know is that I will be asking each candidate to make an opening statement. In most cases, that will be 1 minute. To my right is Courtney Anderson, who will be enforcing the rules on the time. She'll give you a 30 or 15-second advance warning that your time is going to run out, and she'll also let you know when time is up. And then we will have several questions to ask of each relevant group of candidates. As far as the audience is concerned, the only point I would emphasize is that we discourage cheering sessions and other kinds of pro-candidate activity. We like to keep this on a very professional level. We're not voting tonight. We're not going to vote until October for the endorsement. So there's really nothing that will be achieved by that sort of activity. So as I introduce the candidates and get started up, I'll let you know how much time you have, and then we'll take it from there. We're going to start as planned with the shadow representatives. Both of whom are here. We'll ask each of you to take a minute to make an opening statement. And why don't we go first with Nate Bennett Fleming, and then we'll do it in reverse alphabetical order.
Is this the one?
Just have a...
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think I need the mic.
I don't think you need it either, really, but...
All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Nate Bennett Fleming, and I'm the Democratic nominee for U.S. Representative. I was born in the District of Columbia. I'm a recent graduate of law school. I came back home. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of the District of Columbia, David A. Clark School of Law. And the reason that I'm running for this position is because I think that vigorous advocacy is needed to take our movement for DC equal rights up to the next level. I think that some of the setbacks that we've had recently presents an opportunity for us to go back to the drawing board to create a long-term strategy to gain these rights, and that's what I'll be focusing my term on if elected. I want to make sure that DC's young people are active and engaged in this movement, that we build a strong coalition of neighborhood, grassroots organizations like DC for Democracy to strengthen our push for this effort, and also I want to strengthen the role and empower the office of the shadow representative by pushing for more resources. And I look forward to working with you in the campaign, and if elected, I look forward to working with you in the fight to struggle for DC. Thank you so much.
Lee?
Okay, I guess I'm going to have to speak up.
Sorry.
I'm Jean Lee Aiken. I've lived in the District of Columbia for 50 years. I raised 2 children here. I have one son who went for 3 years at ROTC, and he's on his way to Afghanistan for the second time with Special Forces. So I know what happens with the schools. I know what it's like to be a homeowner. I know what it's like to run into DCRA. I know what it's like to struggle with tax people. And I want to try to make life easier in a regulatory way for members of people living here in DC. Regarding statehood, I've just been a very exciting opportunity has been pointed out to me. When I mentioned to someone that my son is married to a Puerto Rican and living in Puerto Rico, it was brought to my attention that the Republicans are interested in having Puerto Rico considering becoming a state. They're slightly more Republican than Democratic, but I've already talked with representatives of Puerto Rico about the idea of doing a joint statehood effort with us and our probably Democrats, although statehood green would be nice. And more later.
Okay. First question, and you'll each have 1 minute to answer the question. Do you agree with the approach of the New Columbia Admission Act that would create the new state of New Columbia from the present District of Columbia? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Nate, do you want to begin that?
the short answer is yes. I do agree with that approach, shrinking the size of the federal district and then letting the rest of the boundaries of DC be incorporated as a 51st state. I agree with any approach that gives us the same rights and same equality as citizens that pay taxes in other states. But I think the most important question is not what's the right approach, but how do we go about implementing said approach? And I'd like to commend DC for Democracy and the DC Statehood Coalition for doing some of the hard work of trying to get co-sponsors for the new Columbia Mission Act. I think it's a long-term process, and if elected, I'm going to work to help grow and work with the DC Statehood Coalition to make sure that we're getting co-sponsors with a long-term view, because each additional Congress, we can pick up more and more co-sponsors until eventually we have enough momentum to pass the bill. Thank you.
Lee Aiken?
I agree with anything that will get us closer to voting. I've wanted to vote for 50 years. I'm tired of not being able to vote. Also, we pay full taxes. Puerto Rico pays no taxes. Well, they do pay taxes, but they don't pay the 1040 taxes. One of the things I may do before the election is actually go down to Puerto Rico and liaison with some of the groups down there and find out exactly how they're feeling about things. They have a referendum on the November ballot to whether they're going to go with statehood or independence or status quo. And one of the things I'm going to tell them is I do believe the people here in DC would be delighted to share the effort with them. And unlike Rick Santorum, we will not say they have to come in as an English primary. We will respect their Hispanic heritage. Y como yo soy bilingüe, yo puedo hablar con ellos en español.
Okay. Second question. And I'll ask you to go first on this, Lee. How would you deal with the apparent tension between incremental goals like budget autonomy and the
Like what?
ultimate goal?
Budget autonomy, okay.
The apparent tension between incremental goals like budget autonomy and the ultimate goal of statehood?
Well, this is a very complicated issue, of course. We've been struggling with this for many years. We thought we had it with Utah. That failed. I believe we really should push for statehood, and I think this Puerto Rican possibility is one of the best things I've seen since Utah failed. I would love budget autonomy, but if we're going to have budget autonomy, not statehood, then we need to also push for paying only 2/5 taxes, because we only have 2 elected representatives. And with that money freed up, we'd have higher incomes, we could pay another $500 million to $1 billion to the city and fund all of our programs that are currently being taxed.
Nate?
Thank you. I think it's a good question. I think that the two goals, they don't necessarily have to be discordant with each other. I believe that they can work hand in hand, and that in my first campaign, it's important to push for statehood because that's what we deserve. It's important to be aggressive, and that helps actually to increase the likelihood that incremental goals like budget autonomy occur. So the problem in the movement before was that we weren't being aggressive, we weren't pushing for what we deserve, so it actually made us much more weaker in trying to achieve some of the incremental goals. As I stated, I believe that we have an opportunity to start planning for the long term with this issue, and I think to solve some of these questions or to put some of these questions at bay, it's important to hold something called like a state of statehood summit, where we get leaders together in a town hall style, similar to the American Speech type forums, where we can get input from people and start planning a strategic direction that's coordinated for all of us to work to push these issues going forward. Thank you so much.
Okay, third and final question. And this one you can go first, Nate. If elected, what do you hope to accomplish in a 2-year term in office?
I think that's a good question. I spoke on some of those points in my opening, so I appreciate the opportunity to remind what I stated earlier. One of the main things is that I want to make sure that we have an approach to the long-term plan to achieve these rights. So I want to hold state of statehood summits. I want to help grow and coordinate with the DC Statehood Coalition. Also, one of the main things I want to do is get students more involved in this movement. I started the DC Statehood Student Association. I would like to get students on college campuses outside of DC involved. And also, many people do not know that there's currently a fight to determine whether DC history remains a course in our curriculum. And I believe that course presents an opportunity for service learning to engage the next generation on this issue of DC statehood and DC equal rights. So I plan to fight to keep that in the schools and to increase the curriculum in that course so that we can have a stronger movement for statehood. Finally, I want to make sure that we have a more active and aggressive office that has resources and has a small staff of interns to do the work. Thank you so much.
Ms. Aiken.
As I said before, I think the Puerto Rican thing is the best avenue for me to follow, since I have free room and board when I go there. It would be nice if the city council or other candidates would be willing to help finance some travel, however. And I will be happy to carry any useful messages. I already went to the Gertrude Stein Club the other day and asked them to put me in contact with gay organizations down there. And I know the Republicans are very busy down there. They actually have two-thirds of the people in their parliament are Republicans, but the other third are Democrats. So if we were both brought in, it would probably be pretty even, either 2-4 or 3-3. And secondly, there is a big blank space down on the World War II memorial. And we should have a demonstration this Veterans Day and have a big sign saying, DC, number killed in World War II, number wounded and number served, and have a big press conference. And I hope some of you would work with me on that.
Okay.